Cool. Awesome. So please sign to the doc if you haven't already. Paste it. Chat. Thank you, Javier, for starting the live stream. I don't see any new faces in the crowd. And let's start with some spec reviews. Getting some activity on the spec repo these days, which is exciting. Let me share. Cool. Can everyone see this? So these are all draft. I did want to ask Joe if you want me to kill these like kind of stack pack.
Yeah, we can go ahead and close those. I think we were keeping them around just so they were easily accessible.
Do we still want to keep them around until we kind of get the doc file stuff in, or?
I don't think it matters at this point. We can always, like, they're still there, right? They don't get deleted. So it was just more that they were handy.
Okay.
But yeah, let's just close them.
Cool. Cool. Do we feel the same way about asset packages? I know these have been around for a while, and I feel like they've been kicked out of the releases for stuff.
Was their status officially turned to hold or rejected or whatever another option may be?
I don't know if we actually, I think we got Anthony's RFC in and through, but I don't know if we actually officially did that. So that is probably a good call out to actually get that through before closing those.
Yeah, I think ultimately I'm just comprehensive about who is going to drive the alternative. And if it doesn't, then we might have to fall back. But that's kind of where my mind is at.
I don't know if we have someone in mind. I think from some of the, I know we've been kicking, I was not at the last BAT meeting last week because I was out. I know in the one before, these discussions have come up somewhat, at least occasionally in the BAT sync for what to do about caching, at least from a build pack author perspective, because I think almost all forms of caching affect build pack authors, even though obviously it has high implications for the implementation team. I don't know if you have thoughts there, Sam. Yeah, I think maybe coming, at least some proposal coming out of the BAT group, working group team.
So maybe I would just propose that we officially kill the asset RFC, and then kill these then after.
Yep.
That it's more explicit our intent.
Cool. I think I still have like one outstanding thing to do on this, but also could just, I guess I can just add everyone. Could use reviews from the rest of the core team as well. Emily's last gift to us before she went on leave. All right, distribution. So I think a lot of this incorporates, we talked about the last week, a lot of it incorporates changes from the remove stacks mixin RFC as well. I think we talked about this last week, and I saw that Jamil made a bunch of the changes that we talked about. But I'm trying to remember why we want to cut out the target from just the build package stuff for the build pack in general.
Because it's being deferred to the OCI config, essentially.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and there's no need for that information.
The OSI can, right, because when we build the build package, we're putting that information in the OCI config.
Yeah.
Were there, besides your, you had to comment that he updated, were there any other outstanding things, I guess, we wanted to change from this?
No, I think I'd really like to get more eyes on it or get it moved in as quick as possible. Just as a forewarning, we passed our midpoint for the mentorship program, right? So we want to get a lot of this done before he essentially needs to go elsewhere, or he may go elsewhere.
Cool.
So that I think that's a call out. And I think I added everybody as a reviewer, but if you can just get your eyes on there, get your approval on it, and get some traction behind it.
Cool. Is there stuff, Stephen, Joe, do you have time to take a look at this in the coming week?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is new distribution version, totally.
Yeah. Cool. I guess for this, this seemed pretty non-controversial to me. Do any of you have, I guess most Stephen, do you have issues with me merging this in?
Oh, I think it's good. Take a look.
If you approve it, Stephen, do we have enough, or do we actually need Ben? With that, Emily.
I forget the rule. I thought we needed Ben. That might not be right. It's a super majority is what, 2/3,
Yeah.
we say.
Yeah, because I think if when we were counting, we had like me and Joe count for 25, and each of yours counts for however much. I don't remember.
I thought we just couldn't. I thought there was a rule that
Oh,
you can't have more than,
3
or
votes.
no company can count
Yeah.
for more than 50% of the vote or something, right?
Yeah. So if you approve this now, can I merge this in?
Yeah, hold on, I'll do it. I'll click the button. Done.
Still blocked. Wait, do I have to refresh? How does this work? Get up. Huh? Seems like it's enough. Awesome. Guess I was also curious about this. Do you have thoughts on basically just appending in Buildback API version here, Stephen, that they need to be unsigned integers, unsigned 64-bit integers, because that's at least how it's codified in lifecycle.
That sounds good to me.
And I know when we were implementing, this came out because we were implementing our like lib CNB stuff on the Salesforce side in Rust. Like we were wondering basically which type to use, and it's not specified in the spec.
Should we be defaulting to Semver here instead, or like just linking out to whatever Semver says? Because apart from this, the other issue that I encountered is that Semver supports like alpha versions or other things, which although we don't parse, we ideally should.
Well, I think we differed on Buildback API because we actually only support major dot minor and not major minor patch.
Yeah, I think it was explicit our intent to deviate from Semver.
For this particular one, I think we should ideally fall Semvers for other stuff where we are actually doing major minor patch and potentially alpha as well.
I'm gonna throw this on the table. I believe if Ben was here, I think I heard it from him. This is pointing to main, right? And I think the intention is our current branching strategy is that it would be off of, or it would be a very specific next version of the API.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the call out here. Buildback 0.7, I think. God love this.
And now you'll see my dilemma with this strategy.
Yeah. I remember doing this for another PR. Did we just want, like, do you repoint all this stuff? What did you do?
Essentially rebase off of the branch.
Like this entire PR?
Yeah.
I don't have access. Oh, but I don't have access to this PR branch, right? Because it's under.
You should. When they create a PR, they get a little checkbox that says that a maintainer could update their branch, and typically that's a thing.
Okay, so he has to check a thing.
No, I mean, I don't think you could do it from the UI. I typically do it from the terminal.
Okay.
Do a rebase and then just force push into his branch, and then feel guilty about it. But you know,
feel guilty about it. Nice. Okay, I will, I guess, talk to Richard offline about that. Do you mind approving this, Stephen? I guess, whenever you get a chance.
You can do it right now.
Unless you actually have issues with it.
I mean,
cool.
It December say 64-bit integers? Or
Semver does not say. Semver does not specify. I think. Last I checked. They do say non-negative, so I think it is at least. Do we want to differentiate? I mean, our lifecycle only supports 64-bit.
I think it's fine to be especially restrictive that you can't have version numbers over the limit of a 64-bit integer.
I don't know if Semver itself specifies a cat. Okay. All right. So distribution, lifecycle distribution spec. I think I'm mostly fine with a lot of the stuff here. I basically pulled up kind of the RFC that I think Emily wrote on a lot of this stuff. And I noticed that like lifecycle TOML is not actually in platform, or I don't know where else we would put it in kind of the pre this change. But it sounds like we don't include lifecycle TOML when we aren't doing non-tarball stuff. Is this spec for distributing lifecycle as a whole? So it should cover both the image and tarball, I think, use case. Is that correct?
It's when I spoke to Emily, its intent was to be OCI specific. That being said, for build package, we also talk about its CNB tar format. I don't have a personal preference, but ultimately I would ask what the end goal is. And I'm not sure that for the life cycle as a tar or in tar format is something that needs to be spec'd out, depending on how the platform is intended to use it. And I guess maybe that's a question, right? Is do we intend to specify exactly how a platform consumes a life cycle via distribution? Because I know we do that for build packs because we want to throw them up on the registry and do other things with them. Make them downloadable in a sense.
Yeah, I guess to some degree, if I'm a platform and I am pulling down a lifecycle, should it be spec'd what is in the image and or what is in the tarball and how that layout looks, right? Like that's kind of the question.
So I know we use the descriptor. Yeah, I guess I'm not entirely sure. I would assume based on Natalie's comment that we do that when we're creating a builder. So I'm not sure that that's a platform concern at the end of the day.
I mean, isn't the goal by speccing this out is to make it easier in theory for people to bring their own life cycle, right? So I guess we have to ask, are those people bringing their own life cycle going to expect to be able to create a builder with it with Pack? And if so, then it makes sense to spec it because Pack is looking for a life cycle TOML.
Yeah. So is there, I guess, Natalie, if we want to dive into those weeds, or maybe we should talk about it in working group. I don't want to
Sure.
get much into the weeds and derail us again like last time.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it in more detail tomorrow. All right. I guess for releases, spec releases, I know for Project Descriptor 02, we're waiting on stuff with Pack implementation to try it out and make sure it wasn't crazy with the kind of state of those things. Have we crossed that threshold, Javier?
I'm not sure that that was my understanding. I think quite the opposite. I felt like I was kind of waiting for the project descriptor spec to be complete to then do more on both
Okay.
pack, APAC.
Okay. If that's the case, I think Joe and I can probably sit down and probably finish out project descriptor and get that release for 0.2 and then unlock back in KPAC. And the next one probably that's closest would be distribution of 3. Does that sound right? I assume that's just the changes that Janelle's making.
Yeah, I do have a question since it kind of ties to what is it called? A lot of the other work, removing stacks. Whether or not we would be treating each spec independently, or if we'd be kind of waiting for other parts of the spec, like the platform or the build pack to kind of adapt first before we can release the distribution spec.
I mean, ideally it's independent. So that makes me think like, do we have to account for stacks and stuff in the distribution as like a backwards compatibility measure if your platform or if your build pack or whatever is using that stuff?
I would favor not blocking the distribution spec because to your point, they should be independent. I think that's a preference. And then in regards to compatibility, I'm not sure that the spec is the right place to put in compatibility. I think that should be deferred to the implementation. Not talking strictly of the life cycle, but just in general of platforms and stuff like that.
I guess how does that work if you are using a thing that has stacks, but you use the latest distribution spec, but the distribution spec does not account for that stuff because we've got it in 0.3.
From what point of view are we looking at this? Maybe we should talk about that as well on the working group.
Okay.
We'll really dive into that one because I think there's different perspectives that we could analyze that.
Cool. Sounds good to me. All right. Anything else on that? I guess we also need to then resolve the asset package stuff for 0.3 to get that at least punted or removed. Active RFCs. I know you had a draft RFC, is that right, Javier?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still blocked on make build layers read only for subsequent build packs. Is that correct? Status for this week?
I think so. It's still blocked on that spike.
Cool. And then for support Docker files, I know we met during office hours. Stephen, Joe, Sam, and I on this. Forgot to tell Javier what's happening. I think the action item here is to resolve kind of this bottom thing of like how we actually want to kind of spec this. And I think that's a thing. I think Stephen said he doesn't have time to lead that effort, but I mean, Joe and I were talking about.
I think there's a sense too. I mean, even for those who want to contribute time, I think there's certainly I feel this way, that there's a fear of doing it in a vacuum, getting it wrong, bring it back to the group, and then ended up being more work. So I wonder if there's a way we can approach this as like spec by committee or something like that, where we can divide pieces of it up among a group of individuals, or have some kind of working group for the spec changes, because it's a lot of work, and I think it's going to be challenging to find any individual that can take it on. I don't know if you have any thoughts on
that. That sounds good to me. Are there folks who are volunteering for that committee? Or
yeah, I can definitely contribute cycles to it. I worry about being the driver.
Are we talking just about driving up the spec change for the, like what the APIs look like for extensions? Or are we talking about the effort more generally, like getting all the spec changes in and documentation changes in and everything to describe?
I think it would make sense to be both. Yeah, I mean, I think Terrence's ask is more clarity around what spec changes are going to happen. And I think we need, like a combined effort to do that. And I think that same group, I would argue that same group should be responsible for seeing it through to a spec PR.
But that's somewhat independent of actually that into the RFC and merging it in, which would happen much sooner than the thing Joe's talking about.
It should probably be done in coordination with the effort that's going on for the proof of concept. I know Charles from Red Hat has been doing work on that. So we should include him, or at least coordinate with him. I know at one point I had raised my hand and said I'd be interested in working on the spec changes, and that's still true. So if this group is looking for someone to be the organizer, I can play that role.
I think that would be very helpful, and I think, I know, like I said myself, and I think others can contribute cycles, so that someone to drive it and organize. And if you're already talking with Charles, which I haven't been talking to him much, that would be really helpful too, to be able to sort of coordinate amongst those different parties. Maybe a good next step is to set up some kind of sync and to figure out the next step. I don't know.
The planning for the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. I just want to see this kind of help move forward. I mean, the sync can just even be in Slack, right? It doesn't have to be a meeting.
Yeah.
Are you, Natalie, volunteering to at least kick that off? Cool. Awesome. Okay, so this is Joe's RFC. It's been hanging around for a while. I saw.
Yep, I have 2 action items from last week that I did not address, so they're still out there.
Cool.
I need to update I need to mention the RFC for each build pack, and then the BAT ownership.
Cool. Sounds good.
It's on.
System build packs are blocked on that. Additional exportable layers. I think I haven't seen updates to this, but I assume just still pending on Sam getting time to kind of make those changes.
Yep.
And then the project descriptor converter. kind of forget where we stand on this every time. Is this just more reviews? Is that right? Natalie?
I still have some reservations about this RFC in general, or the idea in general. And I think we had talked about maybe discussing in our working group, but then a whole bunch of stuff happened.
Oh, I think we were talking about it, but then you were gonna be out because of KubeCon. So
Yeah.
Or you were out and then you were out again for KubeCon, like
Yeah.
two working groups in a row. Should we put it on the agenda for tomorrow?
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll try to, again, get a better sense of exactly where my reservations are.
Okay. That's it for active RFCs. Do we want to add stuff, I guess, from kind of the draft things? Looks like both Javier and Anthony have added things from here. Is that a thing we want to add for discussion tomorrow?
I would like to at least talk, like introduce my draft RFC. I mean, I don't really know if it's worth putting in working group because I don't know if there's any outstanding questions yet. But I just wanted to maybe put eyes on it. It's basically an addition to the previous SBOM RFC, where now there's basically a stack SBOM, right? Like if you're a stack creator, you've put a layer in a specified directory for your stack SBOM, and then the lifecycle can, if Cyclone DX, combine it. I don't know if it's worth a working group because I don't know if there's any questions about it yet, but
I think this is like there's the earlier RFC for Buildback SBOM where we descoped the how we ingest a stack SBOM, right? I think Sam, that was like one of the things that the comment when that was opened. But the Dockerfile RFC refers to IO Buildpacks SBOM as a label for how the SBOM could get regenerated when once the Dockerfile integration is implemented. And so we kind of have a gap between those two things, and this fills in the gap. Is that?
yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole thing.
Which label? I don't remember the label, but in the stack file, Stackpack RFC.
Yeah, it's in the Docker. It's the support Docker files RFC that's open right now, but that's kind of getting close to closing. There's that gen packages interface that regenerates. It's like a hook that lets you regenerate the SBOM, and it just says IO Buildpacks SBOM as the label, and it doesn't talk about the format of that. And so I think you can kind of like conclude that it's probably the same format as the Buildpack label, and it's like a layer on the on the file system, and it references that digest. Like you can draw conclusions from what that RFC says and from what your RFC did, but there's nothing explicitly states this is what that part looks like. And I think that's what Anthony's trying to define here.
Does gen packages output anything anywhere?
I forget what the interface is. I think it's outputs Cyclone DX or an SPDX.
I think it's Cyclone DX because we wanted the merging.
Right.
It doesn't support, I think, both. It only supports one.
Yeah, the interface there needs to get worked out. Like it probably shouldn't output just Cyclone, right? It doesn't say how it outputs it too. It's just like, it's not supposed to define the interface for it. It's just supposed to say like, this is how this will be handled. The interface should be more specific later.
This also says that the output replaces the label.
Yeah,
IO
Buildpacks
SBOM. Did we ever have that label?
Well, it was it was supposed to be paired with your RFC,
Okay.
and then you got descoped from that. And so I think adding that label is what Anthony is trying to do, and defining what the output format looks like and all of that stuff. I would definitely add it for working group tomorrow, Anthony, if that's okay. I'd just like to talk about the directory structure and the inside there and get it worked out. But I don't think we need to hold up the SBOM stuff on it, right? Like we already committed to the work that got merged in. I think we can cut that. It's ready, almost in the life cycle. I think we can cut that out and cut an API release, and then follow up with the stuff later after there's more discussion. My take. But thanks, Anthony, for opening it. I think that's really good. Cover the gap.
Cool. So recalling from memory, what we have on deck for tomorrow is starting with the spec stuff. There is the artifact discussion, lifecycle artifact discussion of what we wanted there. OSA image, package novel stuff. And then there was the distribution milestone stuff. Is that right, Javier?
Are we referring to how we're going to release the distribution and whether or not it'll be a backwards compatibility for distribution?
Yeah, the backwards compatibility discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have the project descriptor converter RFC, and then Anthony's SBOM RFC. Does that sound right? Cool. Might be a loaded agenda. Do we think we can do the spec stuff in like one section? Like 20 minutes? Or 15 minutes rather?
Yeah, we could time box it if that helps. Make sure that we get through everything.
Cool. All right, that sounds good to me. Anything else before we close this?
Just so I know, the agenda items, are those being added to the working group future topics?
Yeah, I'll try to go and add them after this meeting.
Okay.
I think I did that last week. Future topics.
Sorry, I feel like you're doing a lot of work right now, Terrence. I was distracted.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I'll make sure to add it after this meeting. Cool. Awesome. So we'll see hopefully everyone tomorrow.